Good morning, Year 4. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. Welcome to today's reading lesson. Now, today's session is all going to be about retrieving information from a text again. And to be successful by the end of this lesson, you will be able to do three things. You will be able to identify the key words in a question and think, what is the question asking me? And when you think about what the question is asking you, you can then think of possible answers before you even check the text. And then when you've done that, you'll be able to use scanning and skimming to read the text and to retrieve the correct answer. Now, before we head into retrieval today, I do have some more retrieval questions, but these are based on what you read on Friday. Now, we've had a few days since Friday. Can you remember what you read? So I've got 5 questions here that I want you to think about. Can you pause the video now and have a little bit of a chat if there's someone there for you to talk to about it, or just have a think in your head? Really important that you do that so that you know what's coming in today's session. Okay, so pause the video here and do that now, please. Okay, so number 1, what was Fred trying to do in the tree? Well, do you remember why he climbed the tree? It was because he saw the monkeys rub ants in their hands together and rub it all over their bodies because they wanted to use it as a repellent against the bees. So Fred tried to do the same, but what did he want from the beehive? He wanted honey. Now, we don't know if Fred was okay yet, but we do know he's okay because that was last lesson, don't we? We know he's okay now, but we don't know if he'll stay that way. Now, somebody climbed up the tree to try and help Fred. Who was it? That's right, it was Con, wasn't it? Con was really, really scared that Fred was going to get really badly injured, so she climbed up to try and help him, although she was pretty scared herself, wasn't she? And what did Fred put up his nose? He put some leaves up his nose. Now, why did he put leaves up his nostrils? That's right, because he hadn't put ants up there. It could be quite uncomfortable, and he didn't want the bees to get in his nose, so he put leaves up there as like a barrier to stop them. Now finally, he's got up to the tree, he's got to the beehive, and he's retrieved some honey. Then he looked around the other side of the tree, and what did he see? He saw something red. Now we don't know what that is yet, but he saw something red, and it was a bit strange, and he was a bit curious about it. Now today we're going to be finding out what that red object was, and it's very, very interesting. Now today's lesson we are going to be introducing you to the word remnants, and this is based on the book in the quote, and the remnants of gold embossed writing on the base. Now remnants is a noun, it's a plural noun because it's got that S on the end of it, meaning that there's more than one of them. And it's only a 2-syllable word. So we could say remnants, and that would be our word. Now, looking at this picture, I can use this as a clue to help me find out what a remnant is. Now, I can see there's lots of remains of buildings here. These buildings have been crushed and things are remaining. Now, it's not much that is remaining, but this is an example of remnants. Remnants are parts or a quantity, an amount that's been left over after the bigger part has been used, removed or destroyed. So we could say that there were little remnants of the town. So there weren't many, but there is some remnants here. You can see that the buildings that used to be there have been used, have been removed, have been destroyed, and the remnants are what's left. So here we could say the remnants of gold, the remains of gold, the remainders of gold, the leftovers of gold. And we can start to think, well, what does that suggest of this object? Well, it suggests that it's been used, and some of it might have been destroyed in other parts. How? We'll find out today. And your second word today comes from the quote, there were thin lines for tributaries. Now this word tributaries is also a noun, it's a thing, and it's also a plural noun because it has that S, meaning there's more than one of them. Now this is a 4-syllable word. We could say tributaries. And looking at the photo, these bits of the river and the streams are the tributaries. And then it flows into a larger river or lake, and that is exactly what a tributary is. A tributary is a river or a stream that flows into a larger river or a lake. So all of these bits and kind of routes are called the tributaries. Now we could use this word by saying the stream is a tributary of the Ohio River. So this stream could be the tributary that when you travel down the tributary, you get into this big river, which is called the Ohio River. And a synonym for this word tributary or tributaries is a side stream. So something that's on the side and then you flow into this larger river or lake. Okay, so let's carry on. So we are just at the section where Fred has found this object and he's starting to think and he's investigating, well, what is it? Because he's found another object before. He found a sardine can, didn't he? But he didn't really find much out from that. So let's see if he finds much else out today. I think it's leather. Like a handbag? No, something else. He edged round her and upwards. He unwound the thing from the tree as quickly as he could, his hands shaking. The branch he was on was broad and he sat down on it, his legs hanging either side. Con approached and sat facing him, hugging the trunk with one shaking arm. Don't open it now, she said. Wait until we're on the ground, you idiot. Just quickly, said Fred. It was a red leather pouch with leather drawstring and the remnants of gold embossed writing on the base. So it's a red leather pouch, but I wonder what is in the pouch. Do you have any ideas? It was heavy. His hands were shaking as he opened it and pulled out a lump of metal. A tobacco tin, he said. It was rusty, but less rusty than the sardine can. Let me see, said Con. There were words on the side. She whispered them aloud. So that's one of our spellings from last week, aloud. So that meaning she said it out loud. As if they were a spell. Collier's finest tobacco. London. Piccadilly. So it might suggest that this person has now come from London because the sardine can was from Plymouth. So I wonder if this one is telling us it's from London. There's something else, he said. The tree rocked suddenly in the wind and the thing slipped through his fingers. He caught it just in time. It was also rusty and rough in his fingers. A penknife, he said. Is that everything? I think so. He brushed away a stray bee and upturned the pouch over his palm. A piece of paper fell out. What's that? Said Con. A letter. It was a sheet of paper from the blank end pages of a book, marked in ink and labelled with neat block capitals. In the corner was a sketch of the points of a compass. What do you think that is? It's a map, he said. Goosebumps rose on his arms. Fred knew the power of maps. They gestured to hidden things. They were line drawings of the world's secrets. So now there's been 3 main objects that have been inside this red pouch. Can you remember what they were? That's right, it was a tobacco tin, it was a penknife, and it was a piece of paper that was a map. He studied it. It was sketched in ink, which had faded in the creases of the paper. There were thin lines for tributaries, so those thin lines representing the little rivers and streams, and a thick one for what he assumed must be the Amazon, so the rainforest. In the far right-hand corner there was an X. It had been scratched so fiercely the pen had pierced the paper. What do you think it's of? What does the X stand for? What does the X normally stand for? X normally marks the spot, doesn't it? Con's eyes were wide. She seemed to have forgotten that they were 30 metres up in the sky, so they were really high. I don't know. Fred looked upwards. The tree they were sitting in was taller than the others surrounding it. Near the top, where it thinned to a spike, it stood high above most of the rest of the canopy. I'm going further up, he said. If I can get above the canopy, I might be able to see. No, you're not. That would be insane. You're just showing off. Because you're embarrassed you got scared before. Fred felt his ears grow red. I'm going. Do you want to go back down or come with me? Con pulled the corners of her mouth towards her chin. I'm coming too, obviously. They went slowly, testing each branch as they got thinner and thinner. The branches became springy and fork-handle thin, so they're being very dangerous trying to climb even higher when the trees are getting a lot thinner. Suddenly, Fred's head broke out from underneath a leafy branch, and he found himself head and shoulders above the canopy. So they were above the canopy now. Now, the canopy, is that the highest layer? No, it's not, is it? But the emergent layer would probably be quite harder to climb because it's even thinner than the canopy. Below him, the river stretched purple and silver. Fred tried to keep his breathing steady. It was exactly how he dreamt it, from his seat on the floor in the corner of a library. "Look," he said. "I am looking," said Con. She was just below him. Her eyes were screwed shut. The river wound for miles around bends and swoops, disappearing into the horizon near the foot of a mountain. As he watched, a monkey skittered down from a tree and leapt away, curling its tail around branches as it swung past him. "Open your eyes, Con," said Fred. "You have to see." Con opened her eyes, and then opened them further, as wide as the sky. "I didn't know. It's, bite your fist, beautiful." It looked, Fred thought, like someone had designed it with a purpose in mind. Someone who wanted the world to be as wild and green and alive as possible. Very slowly, he let go of the tree with one hand. Fear rose up in his mouth, but he reached into his pocket. He unfolded the paper. It felt like a small green miracle. The map matched exactly what he saw. It might almost have been drawn from precisely this position, or one very close. He peered down at the map. "That's us," he whispered. "And that bend, that's the place where we moored," said Con. There were ink curves, intricately sketched, that matched exactly, or almost exactly, the world below them. "Where's the X?" asked Con. Fred shielded his eyes. "That way, but I can't see anything." The horizon was a green smudge. He couldn't see where the river wound. "We should mark where we are on the map," he said. Said Con. You are here." So now they've found this red pouch. They found 3 really important items, but most importantly, the map was the most significant item that they found, because it means that this person had drawn from where they were. It was precisely this position. They had drawn the map from that exact position that Con and Fred were in right now. Now, we are going to look at retrieval today. So in my part 2, I am going to be discussing the questions and how we can answer them. Again, it's really important you click on to part 2 because it tells you your task for today. So I will see you in part 2 of the video year 4.